different sections, like Jewish and everything else.
Okay. Welcome to the Village in Howard. We are an organization in Howard County residents who are 55 and older. TVIH enriches the lives of county seniors to age in place, to socially connect, and to remain active as long as possible. This includes educational activities like the Life Planning series being offered this spring. Today we start the 6th session 2025 Spring TVIH Life Planning Series. Besides today's pre-planning your funeral session, we have preparing your photos for the next generation, hearing care, a vital part of healthy living, senior care services and its benefits, guardianship and its alternatives, and what is dementia like. All are open to the public on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. in March through May. We hope you can join us. If you have any ideas for future sessions, please see me after the session. As a bonus to our TVIH members, we are offering a hands-on dementia experience with Dementia Live on May 21st at 11 o'clock and May 22nd at 10 a.m. Join TVIH now so you can attend. Today we'll cover pre-planning your funeral, one of the many areas that are involved in decisions for your post-retirement phase. You'll learn practical, realistic information about what you can do now before you die. Give your family and friends a gift so they don't need to make these decisions when they are grieving. Why do we need to plan this post-retirement phase of our lives? Although retirement can be fun and relaxing, eventually we may not have the ability to enjoy it as much. We hope you'll see the reason to start or re-examine your plan to help yourself, your future caregivers, and your loved ones through this phase. So let's welcome today's speaker, Sherri Collins-Witzke, the president of Harry H. Witzke's Family Funeral Home. Welcome, Sherri.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me this morning. I'll be going through some basic information and then open up to questions afterwards. It is. The advantages of pre-planning include making your wishes known to your family or friends and in writing with a funeral home. It does give you peace of mind to know that your plans are in place and have been made known. There are many families that we deal with that at the time of death, when we ask them, do they want cremation or burial for their loved one, they don't know because they've never discussed it. So it's a difficult time in grief that they shouldn't be making these basic decisions. They should be made ahead of time. It is a gift to your family. Families that come in that make pre-planning arrangements are relieved to know that those details are already put into place. There are prepayment benefits. You can pre-plan without prepaying, but if you do prepay, it does lock in prices at some funeral homes that will avoid price increases for you. So we have people that come in and pre-plan and prepay many years in advance and don't wait until the very end. There's a lot of choices to make. As I mentioned, you have the choice of cremation versus burial. The three types of cremations are what we call direct cremation, which is a cremation without any services. We have a direct cremation with a memorial service, which we do recommend that some sort of service be held either at the funeral home, at another location, or even at your home to memorialize and celebrate the life. The full service following with cremation involves having a visitation and/or a service, and then followed by cremation. And some people do bury the cremated remains, others keep them, and others scatter them. Basically, if you're on private property, you can do what you want, but on public property, you'd have to get permission. The burial option is a traditional option, and there are several cemeteries in and around Howard County that the funeral homes can help you get in contact with. The burials have changed a bit in the last few years. A lot of people are doing a visitation the same day as the service and then burial to follow. We still do have some traditional families that do the visitation the day before, but you don't have to. So there are options. We've even had people do the burial first privately as a family and then have a service afterwards. So that would be considered a memorial service without the body present. There are veteran services available for burial in a veteran cemetery. They do provide a plot for the veteran as long as they served 2 years and were honorably discharged. In addition to the plot for the veteran, there's a plot for the spouse, and they also provide an outer burial container. That is basically a concrete box that the casket is put into and closed before the grave is closed. It is a requirement of the cemeteries to have a vault, except for the green cemeteries, which we'll go over in just a minute. The veteran cemeteries provide that outer burial container, and it helps to protect the remains and stabilize the ground above the burial, and that's why it's required. They also provide a flag through the government for veterans. That's at no charge. The funeral home will arrange that to get that for you, and honors can be arranged. Honors is limited to a 2-person flag folding team and someone to play taps. So there are no, what do I want to say? There are no additional benefits except at Arlington National Cemetery. The only veterans that can go to Arlington have to have a career of 20 years or more in the service, or receive a certain type of medal, like a Purple Heart, Bronze Star, those types of medals that give eligibility for burial at Arlington. But you can be cremated, and your cremated remains can be placed in a niche at Arlington with just the 2 years minimum service and an honorable discharge. So that's allowed more veterans to be buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Most of the state cemeteries have also put up mausoleums or niches for cremated remains. So that's also another option at the veterans cemeteries. They also do provide a headstone for the veteran, and then once the spouse is there, or if the spouse goes first, that's engraved, and a new headstone is created when the second spouse dies. The exception to the outer burial container, as I mentioned, is a green or natural burial. There is a green cemetery called Serenity Ridge in Windsor Mill in Baltimore County, and they do offer natural burials where a body can be buried simply in a shroud or in a natural casket. An orthodox wood casket or a willow casket, something along those lines. And only natural materials can be put into the ground at that cemetery. It's a beautiful farm-like setting that a lot of people like, and you can visit it anytime, just as you do a regular cemetery. They do provide a slate marker for the deceased and flowers for the service. So that's something that they coordinate with the families. The industry does have both corporate funeral homes and family-owned funeral homes, as well as corporate cemeteries and family-owned or private-owned cemeteries. The corporations, the largest one is Service Corporation International, and they're, I'll refer to as SCI. They do have a logo that they must display on their building or at their property, and it's a green and white Dignity logo. So if you see that, you know that that is a corporate-owned funeral home or cemetery. SCI is based out of Texas. Those families have sold to SCI, and they sell the name. So the name is still on the building, so you're not aware really up front that they're corporate-owned. Most of the time, you'll find that the corporate-owned cemeteries and funeral homes are a little more expensive. I have not experienced it myself personally, but family-owned funeral homes pride themselves on service to the customer and the family. And that's really what we strive to do, is make it easier for you as far as making your arrangements. Every funeral home is required to provide you a general price list when you either call and ask over the phone or go to the funeral home in person, whether you're making pre-need arrangements or at need when a death occurs. The general price list helps you to compare funeral homes. There's 16 basic items that are required to be listed so that you can compare each funeral home based on that general price list, so you have an idea of competitive pricing if you so choose to look at different funeral homes for those options. The other two price lists that the funeral home provides is a casket price list and an out-of-burial container price list. The casket price list must be shown before going to look at the caskets at a funeral home or being presented those options. You can purchase your own casket, but there may be fees to dispose of the packing materials and crate for that casket. So you do have to check with each funeral home because their policies are different. The out-of-burial container price list, I mentioned those are the concrete boxes that the casket goes into, and it's closed before the grave is closed. And the funeral homes and cemeteries both sell the out-of-burial containers. So it is good to know that you have a choice, either to purchase that at some of the larger cemeteries or at the funeral home. The smaller private cemeteries that don't sell them, you have to get that at the funeral home. But again, the funeral home prices are usually very competitive, so that's good to compare. Sometimes a death might occur at another location other than your home, and if that should happen, you can call the funeral home that you wish to use, and they can arrange transferring the loved one into their care. So if you were on vacation in another state and a death occurred, you can call the funeral home here and have the transfer rather than using two funeral homes, which it is more expensive. But if, for instance, you had a home in Florida and lived there 6 months of the year and here 6 months of the year, if you chose to have a viewing or service in Florida before coming home for burial, then you would need to use two funeral homes. It would be a little more expensive than just using the one funeral home to arrange for the transfer. And the same occurs if there is what we call a ship out. If the death occurs here and you wish to be buried in another state, if a loved one comes to live with family, say, here, and has only been here a couple of years, but's from Pennsylvania, the funeral home here can arrange for everything for that transfer, or you can call, if you're not going to have any services here, the other funeral home can arrange for that transfer and burial. So you want to look at the most economical option and the one that you're most comfortable with. When someone dies in a hospital, the death certificate is signed by the doctor at the hospital. If someone dies in a nursing home or a home setting, if they're under hospice, usually the hospice doctor would sign the death certificate. The nursing home or the family would call hospice first. They would come to the home or nursing home to declare the death, and then the funeral home can be called. But if somebody dies at home, not under hospice care, 911 must be called. They would send a police and ambulance crew to declare the death and investigate it, make sure that there's nothing suspicious. If there's a fall, then it would have to be referred to the medical examiner's office. So that's different than if you're under hospice care. If you call 911, once the police release the body to the funeral home, then the funeral home can be called and they would come to transfer the body into their care. So those are those differences. There are some items that are needed to make prearrangements as well as at-need or arrangements at the time of death. If it is a pre-need arrangement, you would need to think about getting clothing together, but you don't have to bring that to the funeral home because we don't have a place to store it. But if it's at need, of course, you would bring the clothes that you wish the decedent to be dressed in. And that usually includes underclothes, but shoes are not necessary. We recommend long sleeves and high neck to avoid a lot of skin being shown, especially older people that have been in a hospital or nursing home setting that may have bruises on their arms. You want to cover that rather than expose that in a short sleeve, even if it's summer. We would ask for a recent picture, so you would choose a picture maybe of yourself that you've used, either recently or even a little bit younger, that you would prefer to be used on the website or in the newspaper, depending on your choices there. If the decedent is a veteran, you'll need their discharge papers, their DD-214, or separation papers, and that's to apply for honors and a flag. You'd want to have a list of the immediate family members, and that includes spouse, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and siblings. We don't usually include in-laws in obituaries, but they can be added in parentheses after their spouse's name. So some people do choose to do that. The website does, any website does accept any size obituary, but for the newspaper, because they're so expensive, it would be limited usually just to the names of the immediate family members, and then the service information and donations. Some people forget to think about donations. It's nice to be able to ask for donations either in lieu of or in addition to flowers to a church or a charity that of your choice that you would prefer. And that helps people to direct those donations for you. The cemetery deed or information for that location is important. It's the family's responsibility to locate the cemetery and let us know which cemetery that they've chosen or that they have lots purchased in already. And then the name of the receiving funeral home if the burial is going to be in a different state. If it's local, within, say, 3 hours, we can usually handle all of the arrangements, including the burial in a different state. But if you're going to be going to, say, Massachusetts, you would fly there, the body would be flown there, and then the receiving funeral home would accept it and proceed with any services that you want at that time. And then for an at-need arrangement, you would need to bring personal items, for instance, a wig, false teeth, jewelry, or a rosary, glasses, if you wish them to be on the decedent for the viewing. Those items can all be returned, jewelry items, rosary, glasses, can be returned after the viewing occurs, but they can be buried as well, so that's up to you. We do, and many funeral homes do, have a donation box for glasses for people. We donate those to the Lions Club, and then they can be used for people who need them. The basic information we've gone over can usually be found on a website of a funeral home. So if you Google the funeral home name of your choice, that information can be found there. Many funeral homes also have price lists, and that's something that you might want to look at home. Caskets can be displayed on the website, as well as prayer cards, acknowledgement cards, so a lot of choices can be made at home. After COVID, it did provide us with the option of doing paperwork through DocuSign or electronically through email. So if a family would prefer, or if there's family members that are a distance from us, we can have paperwork signed through DocuSign, and it is now acceptable legally for making arrangements. The DocuSign arrangements, for instance, if a family is interested in cremation and there's no spouse that's living, and there's 3 children that might be the next of kin, all of them have the right of disposition, so all of them would need to sign the cremation authorization. And again, it is convenient if people, maybe one child lives in Virginia, one in Frederick, one locally. That can be done electronically. So that is an option that really has we've benefited from after COVID. So I think that concludes all of my information. If you have any questions, I'll be staying afterwards, but I appreciate the time and thank you for having me.